Two reasons mainly. When you come out as an artist or whatever, you want to try to make the best deal you can get. And at this particular time, the record companies were a little dubious, you know. There were the stars here and the regular guys here. So what I did was I just took a second and said, before I actually give my name to a project, Leroy Burgess, I wanted to see if the companies were really into it, you know what I'm saying? So I would make up names like Conversion or, you know, Log, or stuff like that. And as a result, more people know those non-existent groups than know me. But it's all good because everybody kind of knows the music, so that's cool.
Yeah.
You know?
And go ahead.
Also, the second reason is it's really not about me so much. You know, I said this on my anthology liner notes. I wanted always to be about the music to be the main thing, you know. And the less it focused on me as an individual and the more it focuses on the music was always kind of important to me.
You've been heralded by journalists and fans and, you know, other producers, modern producers, as a pioneer of the subgenre of disco known as boogie. When that term like first sort of like, did you know that what you were doing was different from what was going on in the disco scene at the time?
Yeah, I tried to make it, in all my compositions, I tried to use influences outside of the influence. You know, in other words, if it was dance or disco music, I would try to infuse either blues or jazz or something like that, something you wouldn't expect. So that ended up becoming a style for me. Boogie.
How would you define boogie? The spirit of the boogie, as they say.
I have no idea. It's just something that makes you dance. You feel it, and it's more feeling than anything else. That's why they call it boogie. Because I mean, how would you define boogie? You know, when you do it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, it is more of a vibe thing, but it's also. I think if you're gonna get technical, maybe disco has a more rigid type of beat to it.
Well,
know?
yeah,
or faster type of beat.
It's 4 on the floor. Bass drum just goes like that, you know, and then you get a kind of body knock that kind of moves along with it, and before you know it, other instruments come in to help you feel that groove, and next thing you know, you boogie. You know. Sometimes you're working with an engineer, and the engineer on the session, this guy named Bob Blank, who ran a studio called Blank Tapes, right? When we did the Freak session, he was the engineer, right? Years later, after Freak came out and it was a big hit and all of that, he said, I could still, if I put this out and produce it, I could maybe get some more money on this record. And so what he did was he called Christine, Janet, you know, he called the same 3 people who sang it back in, called in some new musicians, and did a version which is known as the Class Action version. That's the name of the group, non-existent group, okay? There's no group called Class Action, no group called Freak, no actual group, all right? It's just a producer's concept. Got a piece of Class Action, and it changed up a little bit. He set the groove a little different.
And this is actually the Larry Levan mix of this song?
Yeah, this is the Levan mix.
Yeah, Larry Levan from Paradise Garage.
Crank it.
Weekend.
Takes a minute to recognize it as the same song. But right there you hear that guitar line that was in it. But now synthesizer is playing it. See, so now you're touching a generation that's 7 to 10 years removed from the previous generation that heard the original Weekend. these guys never heard Weekend, and so this is the first one they hear, and they're not. They bobbing their heads the same way. And this is when disco is starting to become more expansive, so you're stretching the record. Instead of using an 11, he's using a minor chord. Just slight differences, but it's the same thing. Can you fake that out?
Well.
No, please. So that's a second version of that same, and I had nothing to. I mean, except for writing the original song, I really had nothing to do with it. I would recommend to each and every one of you to learn an instrument. You know, those of you who are creative and want to expand your songs and want to expand your musicality, it's a good idea to know one of them, you know, so that some of your songwriting can actually be instrument-based, okay? Because these days, everything is, what, computers, right? Computers, sequencing, sampling, stuff like that, right? And a lot of that is not actually going to the source of how you feel for music. The source of how you feel for music is when you get up and you take a shower and you sing it. That's how you feel, all right? That's because your voice is an instrument, all right? And if you aspire to write songs, you know, or to produce records, it's a good idea to learn how to play something. You're aware of the technology, so you know you can do 1,000 takes until you get it, and you can just keep tweaking it and keep playing with it and so forth until you get it. That's like, to me, that's not real music. To me, it's like, get in there, get your hands dirty, for real. Don't rely on the technology totally. Technology is cool, but what you're creating here is art. That's what music really is. It's not technology, it's art, you know? And if you're not really in it, I mean, if it's just moving this, moving that, and deleting this and stretching that and time stretching and pitch shifting this and that, who's really doing the art? Okay? So you have to keep a perspective on that and balance it.